Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Stud and Dud presented by the Dallas School of Music. Thank you for listening. I'm Josh Smith. With me each week, Dr. Bob Lawrence. What's up, Doc?
Oh, Josh, what's up, my man?
Now, it seems like, too, I will say this, every Friday, and I should have kept track, it's been beautiful.
It's beautiful weather, and, man, today, you know.
It's been cooler this week.
How many shows have we done?
It's actually not number 19 because we had one best of, so this is actually our 19th show.
Our 19th show. I got to tell you.
20th overall.
This is the 20th?
Overall, with the best of.
Oh, okay. Well, listen.
19th live one with us right here.
Okay. Well, the first 18 have been great, but this one, man, I'm stoked because we have the stud of all studs with us today.
All right. Let's get to On Tap.
Okay.
I got to get to, and I'll come up with some stuff today because there was just so much weirdness going on this past week. I've got some stuff to go up with. What's up, Doc? I've got some weird.
I saw that.
I've got some what the hell stories followed up by a critic's opinion.
I love how we have a What's Up, Doc section. That's supposed to be my section, and you put all the material together.
Why don't you start doing it then? Say, here's what I'm doing this week, a-hole. Say, hey, here's what we're doing. I know I tease vacation destination, but of course, like you just kind of tease, we have a lot on tap today. We'll get to vacation destination next week for sure. But in the coveted Stud or Dud segment, we'll talk about record breaker, a stud move that was actually made this past week that we talked about it on previous show, and it's back to the chamber.
Yeah, we're in the chamber today.
Yeah, because Mr. Shawn Pynn joins us today from Atlanta, where I thought maybe he was shooting a movie, but I was wrong.
No, you're not. He's not shooting no movie.
I know. I was like, oh, what?
He's got a movie face.
I know, but I thought he's been in maybe some movies, some baseball movies.
Yeah, that's true.
He could have been. He's made some YouTube movies. All right, let's get to it. I know, right? What's up, Shawn? How you doing today, man? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure, guys. And I'll tell you what, on the acting side of things, I'm not much of an actor. If I had the Shawn Penn's account, my wife would love it, but unfortunately, not so much the case. But I appreciate the love nonetheless.
Awesome, man.
Well, it's great to have you on. Doc's kind of filled me in, and I'm glad he brought it up this week. We've been needing a guest. I love having guests on, so it's great. Like I said, honor to have you on. So I know Doc's going to have plenty of questions for you. My first one, what are you doing currently right now in Atlanta, Georgia? Because to me, you've kind of moved around. You've done a lot of different things in your career. But now, currently, and I know Doc's gonna lead you into it. But what are you doing right now in Atlanta, Georgia? What are you doing? Why do we have you on today?
Great question. So I'm actually working for NCSA, which stands for Next College Student Athlete, and we're a company that deals with thousands and thousands of young men and women in different sports, and basically help them as well as their families walk through the recruiting process in hopes of finding their best fit. The perfect fit does not exist. It's always about the best fit. So that's basically what we do. We kind of give them the ins and outs as to, how to navigate situations, how to stay off those landmines, and hopefully in the end they come out in one piece.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, like, never me, but I'd see my friends, their lockers loaded up with, not loaded, but some of them with scholarships. And I'm like, how do you go about that, in the recruiting, essentially? And I'm sure back in the day, especially even 20 years ago, had to have been a mess for a lot of kids and a real scramble. But nowadays, I'm sure you make it much easier for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I got recruited, it was senior year. And it was the back end of senior year. You were sending VHS tapes out in a bubble wrap package. I mean, it was a disaster, and the recruiting process has changed so much. We've got a lot of families actually where the parents were student athletes in college, and they admit flat out, listen, everything's changed. I have no idea. You got to lead me from step one. So it really is a fun experience.
And I'm guessing probably one of the biggest helps that have additives to this is social media. That's probably helped probably more than anything, I'd imagine.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, if you're looking at coaches and, how they, get a hold of kids, we tell kids all the time, coach is going to look at his email maybe once or twice a day, but he's going to look at his social media accounts 8 to 10 times a day. Mm-hmm. So it really is a multi-pronged effort here. It's not going to be just emails or social media. It really does need to be all of them put together in the right way. Yeah,
and I've seen you had mostly a baseball background. You not just baseball. You're helping basketball, football, everything, correct?
So for myself personally, I work with 8 other guys on the baseball side.
Gotcha.
We do have, the number of sports, man, I got to be honest. I think we're 15 plus on each side.
Wow.
Men's and women's. Yeah, so we're really hitting quite a few things. It's pretty exciting stuff over here at NCSA right now.
And how long have y'all been around?
So I believe we're sitting around 16 years, somewhere in there-ish. So it started off really slow, and things have really exploded in the last little while because, much like you guys were saying, parents are looking for that guidance a heck of a lot more now than they were even 5 years ago, to be honest.
Yeah. Hey, Shawn, it's fascinating, man. I want to get more into the NCSA stuff and the recruiting process and the journey that these high school kids go through. Not just them, but their parents as well. Go through it with them and with you. But before we do that, man, give our listeners a little bit of background on you, your upbringing, your childhood, your journey in athletics, what it's done for you in your life, how it led you to coaching, and then from coaching into NCSA. Fill us in a little bit.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I'm originally from a suburb of about 450,000 people just outside Toronto, Canada, and came to the U.S. as I didn't know I wanted to go to the U.S. to play college sports. Funny enough, I actually attended a high school football game at the age of 17 in the U.S. It was in Ohio, which Ohio football is pretty big. It's close to Texas, very close.
Very big time.
And I went out there, and I remember my friend telling me, yeah, we're going to go watch a game. And I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of goofballs go to a game on a Friday night? Well, little did I know that, we get there and there's 10,000 fans out there. And,
I mean, all across America even too, that's life on Friday night across America. In the fall, that's life. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's funny to think.
It's absolutely crazy. So I come home, tell my parents, hey, I'm going to the U.S. I don't care what happens. They backed me. They were great parents. Really stood behind me my whole life and everything I ever did. So ended up going to junior college from there, and was there for a year before I got sick. Had to come home. Ended up going back to junior college, to the same junior college. Finished up my time there, and then ended up meeting a very, very wonderful woman who ended up becoming my wife of 15 years.
Nice.
And she was an All-American swimmer at the same school. She was actually German, so both of us had that in common, being international students. So we ended up transferring to our Division II school together, Gannon University, located in Erie, Pennsylvania, and went there, ran into some injury issues, and it started my career a little sooner than I was hoping. So was there as an assistant for 3 years before packing up and heading over to Germany. And we, back to my wife's hometown, Hamburg, Germany, which is a beautiful place. And we were there for a couple of years. I was head coach of the pro team in that city. And then the year after my time finished up there in Hamburg, I was shipped off. I ended up going to Italy and was coaching pro ball there for a year before we kind of had enough of Europe, and it was like, yeah, let's get back to the U.S. So we ended up coming back to the U.S. We were in Chicago for a little bit, and my wife actually got her visa, and she's working for a company out of there and works remotely now. So it worked out great. The visa allowed me to work, so I was able to continue my coaching. I was there at Roosevelt University, which is right downtown Chicago, right across from Buckingham Fountain. So a beautiful, beautiful place, great school. Ended up being there for a couple of years, and then magically latched on to my first U.S. head coaching position at the Division II level in Salem, West Virginia. Was there for 4 years, and then ended up, my wife got pregnant with our second child. And my first child coming through, I didn't know who he was for the first 2 years of his life. Coaches are working 80 to 100 hours a week, so it was really, really tough. And when the second one was about to come, it was kind of, the timing worked out well. And, I ended up getting out of there and ended up joining on with NCSA not much longer after that. I've now been with NCSA for 3 years, so it's been a journey for sure.
Wow, man, fascinating. How the little ones doing, man?
Oh, I tell you what, if you want them, you can have them. They are buggers, man. They're something else. They are great kids. They keep us on our toes. They've got, unfortunately, they got a lot of daddy's traits in them. So it's tough on me because I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what do I got in store for me? But they're really great kids, and the big one will be going to kindergarten, and the little one thinks he's going to kindergarten. So. They've beaten up on each other every day, but overall, just a great experience.
It's fantastic, man. Hey, Shawn, I'd take them, man, but I got 4 of my own, dude.
I know you got the Animal House going on at your place.
I do got an Animal House going on
nonstop.
Yeah, and I got a teenager, man. You know him firsthand.
Yeah, I tell you what though, that kid of yours, he's got an old soul. He's a 25-year-old locked in a 17-year-old body. I mean, he's a great kid. I've had a lot of pleasure working with him.
He really is, man. I tell you, it was interesting last night. 10 o'clock at night, the two of us went out for a walk, and we're just walking through the neighborhood, and we're talking, of course, baseball. And he played a doubleheader yesterday, so we were kind of going back through the game and everything. And I got to tell you, man, as a dad, it's just really special to have your 16-year-old son. We're walking, and he puts his arm around me.
Well, he is bigger than you, so
it's really touching, man. He's a great kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a great kid. So. Okay, so now we're at NCSA. So, and you've been doing that, you said, 3 years now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. And in primarily the baseball division.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
From day one, it's been baseball the whole way. So it's been, and like I said, I work with about 8 guys here. It's been a lot of fun, We got a lot of really great guys here. A lot of guys with a lot of experience in different avenues, D1, D2,
right.
D3, NAIA. So a lot of really good back and forth within the department, which is always good.
Yeah. Well, you got a great gig, man, because you're helping a lot of kids try to, reach their dreams and find, like you said, the best place for them at the next level in college, wherever that is, and like you said, there's not the perfect place, there's the best place,
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, well, talk to us a little bit about your experience now on the recruiting side. Let's just jump in with the do's and don'ts with, maybe a young man or young lady who's in 7th, 8th grade. Parents are starting to recognize that, they may have some athletic potential. They seem to enjoy the sport that they play, and now they're going to try to, throw their chips into the ring and really help that child develop as an athlete and do the things that are necessary academically as well as marketing and promotion-wise through high school. Talk to us a little bit about that process and some of the do's and don'ts that you've experienced and witnessed over the last several years.
That's a great question. So I think, particularly, you had started off with the 7th or 8th graders, which, we do work with here at NCSA. And I think the biggest thing for them is the idea, and I know that myself and even my colleagues say the same thing, do not wear yourself out.
Right.
Vanderbilt, Stanford, TCU, these schools are not going to come offering you a scholarship tomorrow. It's not going to happen.
Myth number
your
one.
Darn time through this thing.
Hey, what about Bama?
Kid.
I'm kidding.
But it really is bonkers. When you have these families, they get into NCSA, and I can appreciate the fact that these families and the student athletes themselves extremely excited. Bob, you've been on the website. I mean, there's tons and tons of information.
Right.
A lot of really neat tools on there.
Right.
However, when these kids start, blowing themselves out in 8th grade, 9th grade, by the time they get to sophomore or junior year, I can't tell you how many times I've had a kid just tell me, Coach, I'm done with this. It's become a job. I don't want this anymore. It's not a passion of mine. I want to move into something else or just go to school and be a student.
Yeah.
So I really do think taking time and understanding exactly what's going to come at you when it's going to come at you.
Right.
And that's where obviously myself and my colleagues come into play, just kind of slowing things down, taking a lot of the pressure off these families and, letting them know that 90% of what they've heard is crap.
Right.
Generally.
Right.
And really just kind of giving them the tools that they need, and it's going to change. I mean, right now we're in a spot, you guys are way down the road from that. We're going into junior year now.
Right.
Right. So, now things start to get a little hot and heavy. Junior year is a year when things really start to speed up. So getting a little bit more active on social media, starting to inquire more with coaches regarding camps, and then building up that relationship by possibly making those phone calls, things like that. These are things where young guys fall flat because they're still somewhat, and not all young guys. I've got some guys, your son is one of them, where, they're gung-ho. They can do this stuff on their own, but a lot of young guys are still in the process of letting mom and dad kind of do their thing. And there is nothing more unappealing than seeing a young guy have his parents write an email to the coach.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, and it happens a lot.
Yeah,
and parents think, oh, well, if I write this a certain way, the coach will never know. Oh, the coach knows, and he knows every time.
Correct.
You know, so that's a big one. Taking control of the process while still using your parents as a reference. Your parents, you know, as a student athlete, your parents are old people. They get it. They've been there. You know, use them, but don't rely on them.
Correct.
You know, this really is your process. One of the other big areas, you know, that a lot of young guys fall flat is the idea that, you know, they don't understand that it, you know, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the call, but this idea that it's not just one prong. You know, we've got to fire every bullet in the gun that we've got, whether it's filling out questionnaires, whether it's writing appropriate emails that lead to possible phone calls, making those phone calls, using social media appropriately, you know, making sure that when we go to camps, we are acting respectfully whenever we have an opportunity to meet a coach. Even something as simple as a decent handshake with good eye contact. Little things like this are so overlooked now.
Yes.
You know, young people have changed, you know, and sometimes I feel like my father as I'm saying these things, but, you know, it really is true in that sense. So, you know, we really try to guide our kids to make these correct decisions and let them know that, hey, if you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Right. It's okay. You know, there are a lot of schools out there, and we just got to find one.
Correct.
You know, so it really, it's tough. It's tough for a lot of young families, but I think the ones that are definitely the most proactive with their coach, myself, you know, somebody like myself, somebody that's got knowledge in the system and how the system works. I think being proactive and asking questions when you don't know the answer is important. A lot of families are worried, you know, I don't want to ask this question and I feel silly. No. There are no silly questions.
Right.
If you've got something, it's legitimate.
Right.
Fire away.
Right.
You know, and anybody that chastises you and says that it's a silly question is probably not somebody you want to work with anyways. You know, whether it's a high school coach, club coach, whoever it is. Correct. You know, so I think that those are the major components that really lead to lack of success.
You should just start a consulting business for teenagers. Because my point being, because it's funny because parents don't parent anymore. They're more worried about their lives or their kids' lives than actually parent. Because everything you've said is just stuff that my dad taught me and anything that probably our parents did teach us. But you don't see that anymore at all. I just remember yes sir, no sir. Like you just said, the great, you know, make sure the handshake. These are things that, you know, you were taught, as at least I was as a kid, that should just be taught to any kid, that by the time they're 16, 17, they should be independent enough and smart enough to do these things, that it's just crazy to think that
yeah, but you know what, like Shawn's talking about, you know, that's kind of old school stuff, which yes, old school stuff is good stuff. Yeah. But kind of what Shawn's talking about and what he runs into today, and we run into it here in the arts, in music, in that you get these what we call stage parents. You know, it's kind of like it would be like maybe in the athletic world, it would be like, you know, I don't know, stadium parents or whatever, where they actually step in and start doing the work. They don't teach the kid how to do it; they do it for them.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, my parent, like a parent should do. I'm sure any parent, if I ever have kids, if we've had this talk, I'm gonna do what my dad did. That's what I don't understand. Just teach your, so by the time they're 16, 17, like even Avery, my wife, 18 years old, you're on your own. Go make a living. I have taught you everything that you should know, that I shouldn't have to support you anymore. You should know everything, what's correct in life. But it's sad to see, unfortunately, the world we live in anymore. We've talked about this multiple times, that the things that point to certain things, it's just point to just bad parenting overall.
Right.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I remember the first day I went to college. My dad drove me down. My mom didn't even go. You know, and it wasn't because she didn't love me. She just had other stuff that needed to be taken care of.
Exactly, right.
Needed to be watched, you know. So he drops me off at school. I'm not kidding you. He picked up my one piece of luggage I had in the back, carried it in. He said, okay, you're on your own. See you later. I gave him a kiss and a hug. That was it. He was gone.
Yeah.
Right.
That was it.
Like, you're an adult now.
You know, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, and I think the other component, I think, that does play a role, you know, I had parents that both worked two jobs, you know, growing up. And, you know, I think the other component is that student athletes kind of disconnect from their families. to some degree due to, social media or whatever it may be. That, they've got their own lives, and those lives start a lot earlier than it did when we were growing up.
Yep,
when we were growing up, it was, hey, go outside, play in the streetlights until mom or dad yells at you to get inside and come get something to eat.
Right.
Now, the parents are involved with social media. They're working hard to do whatever they need to do to support the family. You've got one parent running one kid over here, another parent running the other kid over there, and the parenting side is often the area that kind of takes the brunt of it. So is it an excuse? No, but I think it's a point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
think there, and a parent, much, I've seen the job that you've done, Bob. I mean, why has that happened? Because you do exactly what you just told me.
Right.
You went out with your son for a walk last night.
Yeah.
I mean, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
I'll never forget, like, me and
right?
Dad. Yeah, my dad would get his walk in. He'd be like, hey, let's go play pass. And I played tight end for Cabot. We didn't have wide receivers. All we did was ran the ball. So I was tight ends. Like, I was ever going to catch it. Never was going to happen. Anyway, so we'd go out and play pass. Like, we'd walk the neighborhood, and I would run routes down the street, like little corner routes to the, edges if I was going out of bounds, so on and so forth. But yeah, we would do that.
Spend time.
Oh, yeah, until I was 15, 16 at least.
Right.
When I literally, as I still played, up until high school. And so it just speaks like, yeah, where is that anymore? I look at my streets all the time, dead. Even when it's nice and beautiful out, dead empty. Dead empty.
Yeah.
And I know I live in a neighborhood with kids. I hear them everyone in their backyards, everyone's all yelling, but that's about it. That's the extent of
different times.
Yes,
now.
it is. It really is.
So Shawn, what's really nice about the NCSA experience, and I want you to talk about this a little bit, and I think how important this is for the high school athlete. You bring a third party to the equation, to the, you got the parent, you have the child, and now a third party comes in. What I mean by a third party, I'm somebody who's not their travel team coach or club coach, someone who's not their high school coach. And I think, just from my experience, I think that is so vitally important, because you bring to it a really honest perspective and guidance that a lot of time a child can't get. In other words, we always hear the expression that, oh, you have your daddy goggles on, or you have your mommy goggles on, that you're looking at your son and you're thinking that they're the next Mike Trout, and he's not. You got your daddy goggles on. But the same thing could be said with coaches too. I see a lot of coaches with coaches goggles on, where, I guess another common phrase would be daddy ball, I guess, where you got those coaches kind of leaning toward a certain group or a certain number of athletes within their program. And quite honestly, some of the kids that have enormous potential don't get the same kind of attention or guidance. They kind of get shunned a little bit. So I think what's so important, if I could recommend anything to any high school parent and athlete, would be to get involved with somebody like yourself with NCSA, who brings to the table an objective, an opinion that's outside the parents' goggles and outside the coaches' goggles. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. And the best part is, and Bob, you might, I truly tell this to family. I'll flat out tell them, listen, we've got your money already. I don't need to make you happy. My goal is to give you the truth.
Correct. And
give you the guidance you need.
Correct.
Whereas, the high school coach or the club coach, they're worried because, mom or dad is a bit of a firecracker. So they know, ooh, I've got to be real careful with this kid. I can't really say this because then I'm going to have to deal with mom. And it's
that's right.
Definitely the mommy or daddy goggles, those things definitely exist. And I think just having that outside perspective, having coaches like myself and, my colleagues, as an example, on the baseball side, that have been out there, they've seen the Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA level in different parts of the country. I think that's another component. And we run into that quite a bit here at NCSA, where you've got a young man that may be from, let's say, from Minnesota or Oregon, okay? And this young man has never played baseball outside those states.
Right.
Well, this kid's a champion out there.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, how about if I throw you in a 6A game down in Texas,
Yes.
down in Caddy, or down in Dallas?
Right.
And we'll see how that works out for you. So this allows us here at NCSA to really have, almost to the point where we don't really have a filter to some degree.
Right.
We're respectful and all that good stuff. That's the professional way to go about it. But I do think that even in being respectful, you still put your point across and let these kids know, hey, here's the reality of the situation. I understand what you've been told by XYZ coach. I understand what you've been told by your parents, but I've been there. Yeah. I've seen it. They may not have.
Right.
So I'm not telling you have to listen to me, but I would strongly advise that you at least give it some thought.
Right.
And when you kind of talk to them that way, and even the parents, one thing that I've really found helpful, and Bob, this from our conversations, I really, almost to a fault, don't have a filter. So when I tell people stuff, it's this idea that they know I'm not BSing them.
Correct.
And when you can do that and you build up that rapport, the floodgates open.
Right.
It's so different for them. Oh my God, this guy isn't trying to coddle me. Oh my God, This guy isn't trying to, play up my best attributes. He's trying to point out the things that I really need to know. This is incredibly, incredibly appealing to me now. This is great. This is what I've been looking for. And I think that's where you can really make the connection. Do we have some families, don't feel too great about it? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But more often than not, that direct, honest, third-party approach that has no stake in it other than doing their job in helping that young man and that family get to where they need to be, it is immeasurable.
Well, it's absolutely right. I mean, and that's why I think Gardner enjoys working with you so much, as does Mom and Dad enjoy working with you so much, because of that honesty and that guidance and the truth that, and Gardner realizes this, that you touched upon this right at the beginning of the show. Look, it's not just the Stanfords and the Vanderbilts and the big D1 schools that are not going to come knocking on your door.
Especially those, because those are like the smart schools. So how about we talk about like University of Arkansas? Why don't you just knock my school?
Oh yeah, okay. I knew he was going to bring up Arkansas.
I mean, Stanford and Vanderbilt. None of us are getting in there.
Okay. All right, so let's even go with the Razorbacks, man. They got a pretty good baseball program. It's okay.
Sure.
But you know what? Even a St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa, ain't going to come calling unless, and here's the life lesson, and we teach Gardner this and preach this all the time. The phone's not going to ring, the doorbell's not going to ring until you make something happen. You have to take initiative. Sean's not going to do the work for you. Mom's not going to do the work for you. Dad's not going to do the work for you. Your high school coach isn't going to do the work for you. You have to do the work. You have to put the boots on the ground and get it done.
Absolutely. And imagine this now. So we talked about how kids have changed over the last little while. And I know that Gardner and I have had this conversation, and he's executed perfectly. This idea that when you do make this so-called grown-up connection, where you reach out and make that phone call that no other kid wants to make because, God forbid, oh my God, they're going to tell me something I don't like, or oh my God, I'm nervous, I don't talk on the phone usually. When a coach reaches out, or when a player reaches out and does something like that, as a coach, the first thing I'm thinking is, damn, this kid's got some guts. This is awesome. I don't want a wet noodle playing for me. I want the kid that I know when I throw him out there, he's going to be, hard as nails.
Right.
He's a killer out there.
Right.
And that already starts to plant the seeds of confidence.
Yeah.
With these coaches.
Yeah, and I just don't see how
I think that's huge.
Yeah, I don't see how these kids don't watch movies like Rudy. Speaking of, I know you're from the you have to do, like y'all keep saying, you have to do it. If you want to be successful, you can't just shy off and hide in a corner over here.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to make the phone call. Say, hey coach, I'm here, I'm ready to play. Like, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
Right.
I mean, you get my point. I mean,
like,
you're gonna have to get out. And if you see all these other movies, whatever it can be, and I always facet this with other things in life. I've seen I've seen different movies where it doesn't matter what you're doing. You see these guys that as in when I was even trying to get jobs in media, my dad would be like, hey, literally go put your shoe in the door, get a new one. Don't put an old one in there, Josh, but get you a new one and put your note in there. I'm like, wow, he bought a new pair of shoes, put a note in there, and then left because I never give him time. But you get my point. Like, be creative and get in there if you want to be, you know what I mean?
Correct.
If you're going to get the job.
So, Shawn, give us some of the numbers. Give us some of the numbers in terms of the number of high school athletes, how many of those athletes are seeking to try to do something at a collegiate level, whether it be D1, D2, D3. How many of those student athletes, something actually comes to reality for them at the next level? Talk to us a little bit about the numbers, the successes, and also the failures.
Sure. So in the United States, there are 485,000 high school baseball players. That's not including junior college kids and international students.
That's nice.
So if I had to guess, I would probably say somewhere in the 525 range, somewhere in there. So we're looking at 525,000 baseball players. And you've got maybe 1,000 baseball programs, maybe 1,500 baseball programs, somewhere in there. And only about, I think it's about 6.3 or 6.4% of kids play NCAA Division 1, 2, or 3. And they're split up relatively even. You know,
so what's that
2%
percentage into people? What's 6% of 500,000?
Oh, I can barely add 2 and 2. You've done it to
Oh,
me now.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Dude, what do you think? We were at Vanderbilt? Or
yeah, no, right, exactly. What am I asking? None of us were Vandy or Stanley.
Gosh.
All right. We'll
it's a low number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it really it's fascinating when you start breaking it down like that, and you realize that it is that difficult. It really, really is. And I think this is one thing that I think this is one area where there's a disconnect between families and what's actually happening.
Right.
You know, it's this idea that, oh, well, Johnny down the street went to play, you know, Division II baseball at, Cal State Monterey Bay. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to do that. You know, just because you play on the same team as him, that doesn't mean that, you know. It takes a lot of work. And when you're competing against all these kids, another thing that plays a massive role, geography. Geography's a monster, right? If you're in a state like Texas or Florida or Georgia or Oklahoma or Southern California in particular, you know, those are 5 of the major baseball sites in the U.S. Every kid and their mother out of those 525,000 would give their right arm to play in those areas, right? So their recruiting process, the team's recruiting process, the school's recruiting process for the baseball side is completely off the map in comparison to, I don't know, one of the schools I went to, Genesee Community College in Batavia, New York, right? Who the heck wants to go to just outside Buffalo to go to school, right? Maybe what, a third of those kids, maybe a quarter of those 525,000?
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of these factors do play a role in how it shapes not only the team's recruiting process, but also how it changes the shape of the young man's recruiting process as well. So really kind of crazy stuff. There's a lot of factors for sure.
Yes, and I guess I think I'm safe in saying this, and if I'm not, I know you with no filter will just set me straight. But it's not always the best athlete, the best baseball player that ends up at an Arkansas or an LSU or Texas Tech or
wherever.
Right. It's not always
school.
It's not always the best.
That's absolutely correct. And I will tell you, obviously there are going to need to be baselines that are met.
Correct.
And if those baselines are met, then they go to those second tier things. You know, when I was coming through 20 years ago as a player, right? Coaches didn't care. If you had a criminal record, can the kid play? Yeah, he can play.
Right,
okay, we'll take him. Right?
Check SMU. Check
cared.
Miami.
Nobody cared. You know, but now, okay, right in your home state, look at the Houston Astros, right? I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to read this book or not. I will tell you, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for plugging this or not, but Astro Ball is a book that came out about the run that the Astros had and how they built up from that being called, you know, the team that was going to win the World Series after a 3-year stretch of the worst baseball ever.
Right.
And 3 years later, they ended up winning.
Right.
It basically how they built it up. There was an entire chapter dedicated to Bregman. Why? That guy is glue. He is the guy that you stick in the middle of the locker room and build everybody around. Mm-hmm. So there are external factors that come into it. You watch even, you watch any college broadcast, you watch, and even in certain places, some of these high school broadcasts, but even at the pro level, they're talking about, hey, this guy's a locker room guy. He's a team guy.
Right.
And these things, coaches are more worried now about team chemistry than they ever were before.
Right.
It is the X factor that goes into it. Now, does that mean random Johnny who throws 72 miles an hour is going to go play for Arkansas or TCU? Or no, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that he can't have a great opportunity at a really good, say, Division III school.
Yeah.
He absolutely could.
Right.
But the external factors, those things that can't really be measured, are being taken into account more and more every darn day, and it starts with these interactions that we've been talking about.
Correct.
Hey, I went to a camp and I met a coach, and then I went ahead and I sent him a handwritten thank you note. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, old school.
You did? Really? Well, let me tell you what's going to happen now. That coach will always remember that because you are one of maybe 3 players in his 15-year career that have ever done it.
Right. Yeah. Well,
so it's fascinating for sure.
Well, yeah, and it's the same. Like I try to stress to my boys all the time. I go, we'll be walking in the grocery store, and I'll look over and I go, hey man, that guy right there is the greatest jazz piano player that ever lived. And they all look at me and they go, really, Dad? I go, I have no idea. And nor does anybody else in the world, because he didn't do the work. He had the skill, he had the talent, he had the ability, but he never did anything with it. So he's over there picking out his Bluebell ice cream just like me. So you see, that's my point. How many great high school athletes do you know that just aren't willing to do the work? They think everything's just going to be handed to them on a silver platter, and so they end up flopping. They don't go anywhere.
That's exactly right. And a lot of them don't even go to college, to be honest with you.
Right.
Yeah. And and I'm sure all 3 of us have run into that situation where you just look and you reminisce over a light dinner one day with your family, and you're like, man, I went to school with a guy, and boy, oh boy, pro scouts were coming to look at him, and he had a bunch of offers, and X, Y, and Z happened, and the kid just decided, you know what, I'm going to stay close to home, and then boom, nothing.
Right.
And the guy's still living there. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but the point being, that these decisions, they may not seem big in the short term, but long term, they have a major ripple effect. That is for darn sure.
That's exactly right. So, okay, just then real quick, best bit of advice that you can give a parent helping their child. Best bit of advice.
Be there, but don't be there.
Yeah.
Throw them in the pool, but be right next to the edge, ready to pick them up if they're drowning.
Yeah. They got a couple years left. Then you can really throw them in. You can push them, man.
All right. Exactly.
Then you can jump on top of them if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the idea that, teaching these kids the responsibility that, hey, if you make a decision, it's on you. If you make a mistake, it's on you. If you get glory, it's on you because you've done the work.
Right.
And hey, I'll be here for you if you need advice,
right.
But I sure as heck won't do it for you. And I think that's the biggest. I talked to a family recently, and the mother, almost in tears, admitted that, I've done too much, and this one is on me. And she was speaking of herself, and and I felt bad for her. She didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that happens. But going full circle, I do think that is where somebody like myself or somebody else in a mentor type of role can help.
Right.
Where they can kind of help that young man and help that family make that disconnect.
Right.
So that we can then make the proper connections we need to make with the people we need to make them with.
That's awesome. Okay, and likewise, what's the best advice you can give a young man or young lady who's starting their high school career, who have dreams of playing at the next level, at the collegiate level? The best advice you can give that young man, that young lady right now.
Enjoy high school and Griff. That is the best thing I can. That is the best advice I can give him. Reason being,
awesome.
As a coach, I was always a firm believer that if you took care of the stuff off the field, the stuff on the field takes care of itself. So if you're being responsible yet enjoying your high school time, because you guys, we've all been there, you blink and it's gone.
Right.
You know, and so many of these young kids, and, you know I was guilty of it. You guys may have been as well. This idea that you're in such a rush to get to that next step that
right.
you don't take advantage of what's in front of you.
Right.
You know, and I think that, you know, enjoying that time, learning those lessons that come along with, you know, the first heartbreak, the first time you get cut, the first time you get put on the bench because you did something silly.
Right.
You know, not necessarily enjoying those horrible things, but understanding that they're all there to teach you a lesson.
Yeah,
literally.
That hopefully you won't go back on down the road. I think that's the biggest piece. Too many times we get hit with something, and then it's just, okay, no big deal, I'm going to move on to the next thing. No. Think about why this happened.
Right.
Why did this happen so that you don't make that same mistake again? So I think that's the big thing. And a lot of kids don't understand how important grades are.
I was just going to say,
if I'm a baseball coach, let's say I'm the coach at Lamar, okay, right in Texas. So Lamar, mid-major, right? So there is a good chance that Lamar probably doesn't have the full 11.7 scholarships allotted to a Division I baseball team. So what are they looking at? They're looking at kids that have relatively good grades. Why? Because if this kid has good grades, that means that he can pass the buck to the financial aid department on the academic side. Hey, go ahead. Take care of this kid as much as you darn well can, and then we'll kind of pick up the pieces as we need to go from there. But if a kid's got a 2.7, and I'm looking at that kid and, damn, this kid's pretty darn good, but he's going to cost me too much money, I can't go for him. I can't make a play at this kid.
right.
You know, coaches are always trying to hoard that money. So academics are incredibly important.
Yeah.
Test scores are important as well, but they are starting to, you know, there are a lot more schools now that are, you know, doing the test optional thing, even at the nosebleed academic level, you know. So we're in a spot where that is becoming less important. It's still definitely important, but less important. So, you know, going in, getting the grades you need to, and the other piece is the idea that you don't have to take 7 AP classes every year. You
Right.
don't
Unless you're
need to
shooting
do
for
it.
Stanford or Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my goodness gracious, holy jeez. You know, kid goes home, kid's got, you know, all this stuff on his plate.
Yep.
And then the kid comes home and he's doing homework from 6 p.m. when he gets done with baseball practice until 1 a.m.
Correct.
And the kid's expected to function on 5 or 6 hours of sleep. No.
Correct.
You want to talk about, I mean, as adults, we would run ourselves into the ground.
That is
I mean,
correct.
Bob, you're crazy, man, doing all the stuff you do. You know, and I'm sure there are days where you wake up and you're like, oh my goodness, I feel like I got hit by a truck.
Correct.
Now imagine a 15-year-old that
Yes.
doesn't have the coping abilities
Right.
to deal with that, you know, and he's sitting there just trying to push through to make his parents happy, or, you know, hey, I've got to get this test score right because if I don't, I'm not getting into this school.
Correct.
That's a lot of pressure that doesn't need to be put on a kid.
Man, and,
you know?
and we're good at doing that.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's not malicious. It's not the parents doing it in a malicious way.
Right.
You know, but if the kid is really great at math, no problem. Stick him in an AP math class. That's fine. You know, but does the kid really need AP history? No, he doesn't. He doesn't enjoy history. Are you going to really make him struggle through that? No. Don't do it.
Hey, he
Hey.
made major in history when he's in just kidding.
Hey, Shawn, I'll tell you, man, Josh doesn't even know how to spell AP.
A7.
See what I told you? He's
All
from
right.
Arkansas, man.
Man, they gave me some good teaching down there.
Okay.
Or up there, wherever I'm from. I don't even know. All right, anyway. Let's get on to a little what's up, Doc. Let's get on some little what the hell story.
And we want you to chime in on this,
Yeah,
too,
definitely.
Shawn.
So did both of you guys. Did you hear about did you guys hear about the horse that fell in the sinkhole and then won a race 12 days later?
No, I did not.
Almost
Sure
sounds like
did.
You heard about that, Shawn?
Yeah, that was crazy. I think the race was in Canada, actually.
Yeah, it was, and which is crazy. It's oh, by the way, the second leg of Canada's Triple Crown. So it wasn't like just some small Joe,
Wow.
some Arkansas race there in the backyard, boy. We're talking about the second leg of Canada's Triple Crown. So yeah, he fell in the main water main break.
That's amazing.
Water main break. So all of a sudden he's literally up to his neck. Literally up to his neck. The local fire department's got to help come pull him out. Then 12 days later, he wins the race.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's
All
a stud.
right, talk about AP. Literally, we were just talking about AP. How about what's up with AP?
Right. What's up with AP?
I mean, you make $100 million, and you've seen this. I've seen a lot of NBA players go through this, and that's one thing. Do y'all, speaking of which, well, I guess y'all are probably hadn't got to that stage yet. Do y'all ever, speaking of which then, Shawn, do y'all ever talk about anything financial when you talked about these kids saying, hey, do y'all ever discuss anything financial, as in the millions of dollars these kids may run into and how to handle that?
I have had 2 clients in the 3 years that I've been here where it was going to be real touch and go as to whether or not the kid would go to school or whether he would get drafted.
Gotcha.
So that conversation has come up. I'm not as well versed in that stuff, it's definitely not my avenue. But the main advice I gave the kid was, hey, if you're gonna get drafted and move on, you need to make sure your schooling is included.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. That was the best advice I could give the kid. Other than that, my goodness, it's definitely not my cup of tea for sure.
I was just wondering. I just thought about that, because you just see these guys, a lot of NBA players, but these guys, they go on and make he made $100 million he's made so far, which is crazy. He just signed with the Redskins, 2-year, $5 million deal. But which is crazy. All this comes up because he's currently being sued for $5.2 million for a loan he took out to pay off other loans that he was in debt for.
He's not the first. He won't be the
last. I just, don't get it.
And then on the flip side, you've got guys like Gronkowski that only used his money from his endorsements and packed away all of his salary.
Yes, so he's got like $100 million. He's got $100 million in the bank.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I hate to have to even say it. Do you see the terrible boxing stories of the last weekend?
Yeah,
awful. Boxing wasn't already dead enough, and I hate this for boxing because I really love boxing compared to you. I like UFC, but I always love the traditional boxing more. But then you have 2 guys in the same weekend from bouts have brain essentially injuries and pass.
Yeah, I'm not a big boxing guy, but that's a tragedy. That's awful.
Just nuts to see that. And hopefully, there's really not much you can do about it because boxing is going to continue. But it's just, I guess they're just going to have to learn how. And it's hard to see because these guys, the first guy, the Maxim guy, the Russian boxer. I'm just seeing from highlights and stuff. His own team had to throw the towel. He was going to keep boxing, but his team had to throw.
I just don't like sports where you have to beat somebody else up.
Yeah. You never liked boxing even growing up since it was bigger in the 60s and 70s.
It was bigger with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
But you did like it more so then, probably more so now than you really kind of realize.
Yeah, but I was a kid. Yeah. But now as an adult, I'm kind of like, man, I don't know, man. I just can't see beating on somebody.
And then speaking of which guy that keeps on defying Father Time that can keep ticking on and taking 12 rounds like it's nothing, Manny Pacquiao. We talked about him last weekend. He ends up winning.
Yeah, that's
being a guy that was unbeaten. That's like half his age. It seems like it probably is half his age.
It's unbelievable.
It's just crazy. And I guess that's why the crazy world of boxing is what it is.
It's crazy.
How about your boy Zeke?
Yeah, what's up with him?
Is he not going to board the plane?
Did you hear about that, Shawn?
Yeah.
No, tell me about it.
And we'll get to this. Do you like the Cowboys? Do you even? I guess who is you? And we'll get.
He's got to be a Falcon.
Okay, so if you really want me to tell you, the first football game I ever watched was the '88 Super Bowl. And from that day forward, I have been a steadfast 49ers fan.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, not good for us. Definitely not a good.
I'm a huge Broncos fan, so awesome.
So you were the old school 49ers with Joe Montana.
Yeah, he destroyed my Broncos like 100 to nothing. It was like 55-10.
He destroyed everybody.
Yeah, well, literally.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah, back to Zeke, and I guess he's wanting what Gurley got. Todd Gurley, running back for the Rams, got in his 3rd year. He was about to point being he wanted a contract, and that's what I hate about and that's. It comes back to what we talk about with these kids these days. They see stuff on TV. They see stuff on social media. It's like, well, if he got it, I got to get it. I want
Entitlement.
it. Entitlement, exactly. So now he wants that. Well, guess what? The Cowboys still have to sign Dak Prescott. They still have to sign Amari Cooper if they want to keep the wide receiver combo with Dak Prescott. So they're working on their contract. So a lot to be said. Not like I said. We'll see if he shows up and we're waiting for him to show up in all Oxnard. That's like a city in Arkansas. Oxnard.
Oh, is that where training is this year in Arkansas?
No, that's what it sounds. Oh, okay, I see how it is. Hey, Jerry Jones wanted to do so. He could. He's like, guess what, buddies?
Yes, he could.
We're going to where I played some ball. We're going up to train. My Hogs suck in football. Let's go help them out a little bit, right?
Do. Yes, they do.
How about your boy, Mike Trout, and your son's boy? Great. I think he heard us. Remember earlier this year we had the Griffey Trout comparison. He's on a tear this year.
Let's get Shawn's input on that comparison to Griffey and Mike Trout.
How about that comparison?
Oh boy, the funny part was as a kid, Griffey was my guy, left-handed hitter.
Yep.
Every time you went out and played wiffle ball, it was I'm Griffey. Hat turned backwards. So huge Griffey fan.
You should see my hat on right now backwards.
Perfect. It's perfect for the conversation. And I do think though, when you watch everything that Mike Trout does, and Ken Griffey, his nickname was the Kid because he was really jovial, and he was just happy all the time, and just out there having some fun. But Mike Trout takes everything to a whole other level.
Yes, he does.
I mean, if you've seen any of the amazing stories about him, which if it was up to him, he would not want ever published. I mean, incredibly modest to a fault, and then he goes out and he may very possibly be top 3 players of all time. And the kid's only, 28?
The only thing I'll say this real quick, because he doesn't have this. Ken Griffey Jr., 10, count them, Golden Gloves. Guess how many Mike Trout has? 0. 0. So,
well, now here's what I will tell you. Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove and only played 31 games at first base once. The old saying in baseball is that it is harder to lose a Gold Glove once you win one than it is to win one in the first place.
That's my biggest kid, and his strikeouts. His strikeouts are almost double Griffey's. They're 1.5 times. Those are my 2 points out, because Doc was obviously Trout. I'm pro Griffey, and I was like, hey, Griffey's got 10 Golden Gloves. They play the same position. Guess what Trout has? And he didn't realize either. Trout has 0. So those are my 2 main things. Because the infamous catch, Griffey into the wall, breaks his wrist, holds onto the ball while breaking his wrist. I mean, that just shows you the defensive player that Ken Griffey Jr. was. I think, because that's just who I'm for. I think he's a better defensive player. I think Mike Trout's a better hitter, but I think Ken Griffey Jr. was a better defensive player.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's definitely possible, for sure. That's
honestly,
one of those Michael Jordan, LeBron James coin flips,
Yeah. Either way, you're not going wrong. You're getting like an all-time stud, speaking of which.
Hey, Shawn, speaking of, this is kind of interesting, because I made the point about, it's not always the best athlete that ends up, succeeding, It's interesting. On our way back to from Atlanta, because Gardner and I were out in Atlanta for that tournament. We were on our way back, so we're just driving in the car, and so we do goofy things like. So we said, okay, let's pull up the draft, the year Mike Trout was drafted. I said, let's go down the list to see who's still playing. So we pulled up that draft. Mike Trout was drafted number 24 in the first round. The 23 players in front of him, most of them
are no longer even playing?
We have never even heard of.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Absolutely. It is nuts. And that'll give you an idea how tough baseball is. I mean, you've got to work your way through 4 levels.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to work your way through, actually even more than that. I mean, if you start at low A, you've got to go from low A to advanced A, then up to double A, then triple A, and then up to the show, and then stick. I mean, it's crazy.
So So that game requires not only you have to be very good, but you have to have a love for that game. Do you not?
Oh goodness, absolutely. One of my kids that I had coached in summer ball, he came to us, and that year he was a walk-on freshman, redshirt freshman at Florida State, and this kid could barely catch. He could barely hit. And for Florida State standards, I mean, and lo and behold, 3 years down the road, the kid's the starting shortstop for Florida State and ends up getting drafted, flames out, then plays 10 years independent ball, does well enough there, goes right to AAA of the Rockies, and then gets promoted after hitting 340 with 10 home runs in like 40 games, gets promoted up to the big leagues. After 10 years of just rough, horrible experiences in the international leagues, or in the Can-Am League, I should say. So
that's a love.
It does take a lot. It does take a lot of pushing forward.
They're both in there. I just want to get to this 9th year, because point being, Trout's on pace this year for 52 home runs, 127 RBIs, currently hitting 292. And the reason I brought this up, because Shawn, especially since you weren't here, I brought this up because let's see what Trout does this year, because Griffey in his 9th year, this was his 97 year when he was in that. Well, I think this was the year before he was somewhat in that home run race. I think it was the year before that he was somewhat in the home run race with Sosa and McGuire, but that was in his 10th year. But in his 9th year, 97, he hit 304, hit 56 home runs, and had 147 RBIs. So I said, let's see what Trout does this year. And lo and behold, he's on pace to have by far his best year ever with 52 homers, 127 RBIs, and hitting essentially about 300. So he heard me. He's listening to the podcast.
He's listening to Stud and Dud.
Yeah. So let's get to it. Doc, tell me about Lion King. Good, great. Really great.
Hey, we took the kids to Lion King. I stayed awake during the movie, which is, Shawn, as we get, You know, as we get older, man, Shawn, we go to these kids shows.
The lights go off, and you just kind of want to like sink into your seat.
Well, that's right. And they have these chairs in the movie theaters now where your feet go up and your back go.
Yeah, it's fancy. It's not like when we were growing up.
Yeah.
No.
Nasty gum on the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that anymore.
Those seats kept you awake for the movie.
So I fall asleep with my mouth open and the kids are throwing popcorn into it. So
Yeah, right.
But
That was for Secret Life of Pets.
Secret Life of Pets, I fell asleep.
Yeah. So what about Lion King? Fall asleep first off.
I prepped for it.
Oh, you prepped.
I prepped for it to make sure I was ready to go. Lion King was an awesome movie. I recommend it to anybody. I mean, it was even
on the IMAX too, breathtaking.
It was awesome. It was beautiful.
Now, could you tell at times though it was a little? I'm sure at times a little bit of animation. You could tell the CGI every once in a while that it was.
Yeah, but
not so. That's what I'm asking. Could you? Because I just went from a normal fan who doesn't see it too often. How much could you tell?
No, I got totally into it, so
wow.
I didn't.
Was it just like the animated '90s one, where it pretty much spot on?
Yeah, pretty much. But they've added some new little twists that were hilarious.
They did.
Yeah.
Now, Shawn, have you seen any of the recent Toy Story 4, Pet Secret Life of Pets, Lion King? Have you seen any of these?
Oh no, that unfortunately not. I know that it's going to be coming down the road with the kids being the age they are, but
I was wondering.
Not much of an animated guy.
All right. Let's get into it. Now we're time for the coveted Stutter Dud segment. And first, we got to get into the record breaker. How about this? And I kind of teased it in the midweek update. Oldest video. Did you probably had any? Did you have any idea at first? Because I know you've seen the prep. So did you have any idea
I did not have any
what
idea.
would be the oldest video to break the record with 1 billion views?
I did not have any idea.
Would you have any idea, Shawn? Oldest music video to have 1 billion views. What is it?
Oh my goodness. God, I have absolutely no clue.
Bohemian Rhapsody for Queen.
That's a really crazy question.
Bohemian Rhapsody for Queen.
Come on.
Yep.
Was it really?
Yes. Yep. That just broke this last week, so that is now the oldest music video, right, with 1 billion views, which is crazy.
Man, I would have guessed White Christmas with Bing Crosby.
There you go, baby.
I guess I'm showing my age.
That's the oldest with 1 million views.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then we got to talk about something we've talked about last week, and I was hoping it would get past.
I saw that.
Yes, and it did. The 9/11 compensation fund certainly got extended from next year, 2020, to 2090 for 70 extra years.
That's fantastic.
God bless those guys.
Yep.
So certainly awesome to hear that. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Oh, yes.
It's the chamber.
The chamber.
Of questions.
Are we taking Shawn into the chamber?
We got to drag him in, shackles and all.
Okay.
Come on. All right, Shawn. All right, here we go, Shawn. Now, if you could coach since you had a little coaching career, if you could coach one baseball player of all time, who would it be?
Mike Trout.
All right. What about team? And you can go year, like say the 1960 whatever Red Sox, whatever. What
Miracle
team?
Mets.
Yeah. What team? What team? If you could coach one team all time, manage one team, who would it be?
93 Blue Jays.
90. Ooh, I even watched that series.
Yes.
My mom was from right outside Philadelphia, so it was a heartbreaker.
Oh, yeah.
Heartbreaker for her.
He's showing his Canadian blood right there.
What's funny, I was for the Blue Jays for whatever reason. So I was like, yes, when Carter hit that home run, I was like, yeah. All right. Let's get back to the questions. Now, we've talked about, teams that you could coach or players. How about your favorite team growing up? Any sport?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ooh, definitely. The going straight to the hockey. All right, now your favorite player of all time, any sport.
Ricky Henderson.
Ooh, I loved Ricky growing
nice.
up. I loved it. All right, best baseball player ever.
Oh boy. Now you've done it. Oh my goodness. Okay.
You're in the chamber.
I would probably have to say. I would probably have to say Mike Trout.
All right, there we go. Ding, 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 ding. All right, how about? Oh, then I was gonna say now. So he's not only the best ever, he's the best now. You'd say, obviously best now, but he's the best ever. You'd say.
Hey, real quick before you go on to any more chambers, Shawn, Mike Trout comparison to Mickey Mantle.
That, I tell you what, I don't even know if I could do that. It's one of those ones where obviously the numbers are there. You get the picture as to how darn good this guy was. But I just couldn't do it because I just don't have the reference.
Well, here's what it comes down to. Whose card's worth more?
Well, yeah.
It's not even close.
Well, but I've always suspected, though. I've always said that if Mickey Mantle, if a kid today said, "Geez, I wish I could watch Mickey Mantle play," I always say, "Well, watch Mike Trout."
Yeah, right there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, or I should say, go-to sport after baseball. And I'm only going to be guessing. I should know this. What is it though?
Oh, Definitely hockey.
Yeah,
that's actually go-to even before baseball.
Oh,
Whoa!
all righty. The Chamber's got him opened up.
Wait till I tell the G-Man.
Uh-oh. All right, your go-to Gatorade.
Definitely orange.
Ooh, all right. Your gear of choice, Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Puma. What are you rocking?
Nike.
All right, love it. Favorite, let's get to the food. Favorite type of food? Barbecue, Mexican, Italian. What are you going for?
Oh, baby, you've done it now.
Cajun food. I mean, what is it?
I swear to you, this is God's honest truth. I didn't have ribs until about 6 months ago. It may officially be my favorite food of all time.
Ribs are good. You get them. You get the.
I am 39 years old. I didn't have ribs.
Wow, I'm shocked. Yeah, I love some barbecue.
Atlanta's got some pretty good barbecue going on down there.
They sure as heck do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, all-time favorite restaurant then.
Oh boy, we've got kind of a fun. It's a fast food joint here, and I don't know if you guys have it in Texas or not. Actually, I think it might actually be a Texas restaurant. It's called Cookout.
Oh,
Are you guys familiar with Cookout?
I don't think
No,
so.
we do not have that.
Okay, so a Cookout is definitely my favorite. It's fast food, but you don't feel like you're a bowling ball as you're walking out of the
I
dance
love
floor.
it.
It's
I love
great.
it.
Nice.
All right, you going cake or you going pie?
Definitely cake.
What's your favorite cake?
Chocolate.
Candy or ice cream?
Definitely ice cream.
And your favorite ice cream?
Vanilla. I'm that guy.
Are you gonna? That's fine. Are you putting that vanilla ice cream on top of your chocolate cake?
Darn right I am.
All
What
right.
about a little Hershey's chocolate on top of that, man?
Hey, I'll tell you, whatever it takes. I got to keep up my dad bod.
All right, there we go. All right. Go-to cereal of choice.
Ooh, Frosted Mini Wheats.
Nice.
And go-to chips. Your bag of chips. You got to have that bag of chips.
Oh,
What is it?
salt and vinegar 100 times over.
Oh, there we are. All right. All-time, let's get to some entertainment. All-time favorite TV show.
Seinfeld.
Oh, yes. I love the reference earlier, too. Hey, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Let me get it right. Your favorite movie of all time.
I'd probably have to say Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, nice. Last one you've seen.
Ooh, shucks. Last movie I watched, Django.
Oh, okay. Favorite artist band all time.
Cat Edmondson.
Oh.
Go-to music.
She's a jazz artist.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, Doc loves that. Go-to music of choice.
Oh boy, I would probably have to say classical.
Oh, nice. Doc's in heaven over here. You should see his face. He just lightened up. Like, wow.
Jazz would have been a better choice there, Shawn.
There you go.
But we'll go with classical. That's good.
All right. What you jamming out right now? What have you been jamming lately?
Lately, it's been a lot of, Rage Against the Machine, believe it or not.
Love it.
Trying to get back in the gym, you need
Yeah.
something to get pumped up.
I love it. All right. We're going to get to this next week, so we got to ask you, what's your top summer vacation destination?
Anywhere on a cruise.
Oh, there you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
getting some water under your feet. All right, here we go.
Absolutely.
The top question, the final question
The chamber.
of the chamber. Last meal, what are you eating, and what 3 people are you inviting, dead or alive?
Oh, my. You guys have done it now. Holy jeez.
We've done it for the 3rd time.
Oh, well, I'm going to go back to my ribs. I'm going to go ribs with homemade cut French fries.
Oh.
And I am going to go with Jack Nicholson.
Oh,
Ooh.
One.
love the golf.
I'm going to go with John F. Kennedy
Ooh.
for another one.
Nice.
Crazy
And
actor.
then
Great president.
probably for a little bit of spice, we'd probably go with Ricky Henderson.
Oh, Ricky Henderson, a little sports figure. Got a crazy actor in there, and then you've got your amazing president, which I'd love to meet, JFK. But yeah, I'd love to meet all of them. Hell, I don't know what am I talking about. What am I talking about? That sounds amazing. Hell, I'd love to be there for that dinner too, for certain. So hey, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can everyone follow you? Get you on Instagram, social media, where we can find you at?
Oh, gosh. So you can get me at Coach Pynn NCSA on Twitter, and beyond that, I am a ghost on social media. I try to stay off that sucker, but for work, we try to do the best job we can out there promoting, kids and definitely giving some good information. So if you follow Coach Pynn at the NCSA, you're going to have an opportunity to get a little bit of advice, and you can get it for free. So
And the website, what's the website?
The website is ncsasports.org.
Great.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I just want to get that out there so everyone listening today can get out there and find you. We got plenty of recruits. One Gardner being certainly that listens to the show, although I know he's going to be going attending the University of Arkansas. So we already got that on lock. I've got that on lock for him. I'm helping that out for him already. So
so in fact, I gotta leave here, Shawn, heading to another game. These boys play baseball like nonstop, man. I tell you.
You need a break. I tell you what, one of them family vacations. You got to get on top of one.
Yes.
You better
before everything gets hectic again.
You better believe it, my friend.
All right. Well, speaking of which, next week's show we've got to talk about top summer vacation destinations, and I can't wait.
Be fun.
Yes, sir. Certainly so. We'll also see what your boy Zeke does. Hopefully, we can figure that out. Looking to get yet another guest to join us. We'll be looking into that, all that, and much more. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud. Hear all the episodes, Spotify. Website's looking amazing. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Comment, like, do all that cool, fun stuff that all the young kids do these days. All those cool emojis.
And check out Shawn's.
That's right. And thank you so much again, Shawn, for joining us today. You are a stud for sure. You survived the chamber.
He's a super stud.
I appreciate you guys. It's been an absolute blast.
Well, thank you all for listening.
All right, Shawn.
Until next time, I'm Josh Smith.
I'm Bob Lawrence.
All right, peace.
Peace.